And so with that, if you could please stand with me for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we're going to go through just a few minutes of some details before we begin in earnest. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ricky Hippler.
I guess I can turn that on now. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out. It's supposed to be one of the best days we've had in probably a month, and we're sitting in here. So, but again, it's a vital part of the process. So, again, thank you for coming out. I'll introduce the board. Again, my name's Chairman Ricky Hippler. To your left is going to be Selectman John Van Londersloot, Selectman John Osborne, Selectman Sherry Burdick, Selectman Jack Meany.
You must have practiced that last name.
I have some other introductions to make. And so to my right, we have the town clerk and deputy clerk, Maureen Bilodeau and Jane Murchie, respectively. To my left, at the far end of the table, we have town administrator Naomi Bolton. We have Beth Rouse, our finance administrator. There she is. We have Chief Robert Vizina. We have Chief Chris Moore. We have our DPW director, Benji Knapp. We have Laura Spector Morgan, who's our town council. And then in front of me, if you could please stand, I'd like to recognize the finance committee for the town of Weare. And so present today, we have our chair, Mr. Tom Downing. We have Jeff Spring, Tom Clow, James Drury, Bill Anderson, Liz Evans, and I think that's it. So thank you. I also want to recognize supervisors of the checklist. We have, hang on, I have a very long sheet. Many, many names. We have Colleen Cowie and Nancy Christensen, so thank you. And so as you've made your way in today, I hope that you've checked in with them. Everyone should have checked in, and all residents should have received a pretty green card. Yes? Okay. And so we also have our Clay Creasy, who is our librarian, who's with us today. Okay, thank you. And I think, did I miss anyone? Oh, I'm sorry. Janine, if you want to stand. Janine is here to represent Parks and Rec. So thanks very much. Thank you, Selectman Van. Okay. So I want to just acknowledge, annually we recognize residents of Weare who we lost this past year. And unfortunately, this is a long list, but if you'd bear with me as I read their names. Lorraine Longerbloom, Erica Kubicki, Diana Scanlon, Donna Diamond, Jeffrey Rausch, Donna Sheeter, David Deverett, Gertrude Baker, John Palmer Jr., Kathleen Leggett, Esther Paquette, Christopher Whiteman, Pamela Ottman, William Matheson III, Joan Dougherty, Pasquale Guerreri, Carol Colburn, Carlene Willis, Joseph LeLibertaire, if I mispronounced that name, I apologize, Lois Jourdain, Matthew Riley, Arthur Randall, Robert Ackerman, Shelley Janis, Susan Saracen, Thomas Johnson, Howard Einison Jr., Paul Filto, Colleen Vitrice, Fred Johnson, Doris LeBaron, Catherine Harkness, Hope Collins, Donald Rogers, Guy Duquette, Brian Park, Royal Lehman, Pamela Farnham, David Koenig, Crystal Montgomery, Michael Cohey, Paul Bergeron, Ronald Ouellette, Eugene Prevost, Nancy Mudge, Linda Keim, Beverly George, Halim Malouf, Pauline Campana, Paul Shervette, Kathleen Kendrick, Terry Young, Daniel Corsetti Jr., Sidney Kaler, Richard Leclerc, Bruce DeMaine, and Matthew McKelvey. So thank you. So I just want to go through a couple other pieces of information just so that you can understand what to expect and what the plan is today. So I'm going to ask if you can silence your cell phone. I am usually guilty of forgetting to do this, and so I apologize if mine goes off. I think I shut it off, but if you could do that, it just can be distracting. So we're not going to be formally using parliamentary procedures or Robert's rules. I always jokingly refer to this as Eileen's rules, and let me give you kind of a snapshot of what and how we're going to be conducting business today. The one thing I can guarantee to you is that I am not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do my very best to be fair, to be efficient, and to run a meeting where everyone who has something to say has the opportunity to get up and say it. So I'm just going to run through a couple of guidelines. So, right to speak. All eligible residents in attendance have the right to speak on articles or amendments on the floor. Without objection, the moderator may also permit non-resident staff, and so, for example, we know that a few of our department heads and our town council don't live in the town of Weare, but we need their subject matter expertise, so they will be asked to speak on certain articles. All speakers and members of the Assembly are expected to engage in civil debate and refrain from personal attacks. Please be courteous with one another when speaking, and please be respectful of others' opinions and their right to express them. All discussions occur through the moderator on the conduit. So what will happen is if you want to speak to something, you would approach the microphone, you'd state your name and your address, and we would, if for some reason somebody has difficulty accessing the microphone, please let me know and we'll make sure somebody comes out to you to speak, to help you be able to speak to an article. After being recognized again, please state your full name and address for our minutes. And so Maureen will be taking, as town clerk, will be taking minutes today. So the normal order of discussion. A motion to consider a warrant article must be made and seconded before any debate begins on the subject of the article. Both the mover and the second must provide their name and address to this moderator. After the motion has been moved and seconded, the maker of the motion will be given the first opportunity to speak, provided the motion is not ruled out of order. I'm going to ask, when you're lining up, some articles, there's a lot of interest and a lot of want to speak, so be mindful of your time, be mindful of others' time, be brief, be brilliant, be thorough, but be courteous. In terms of speaking on an article, I ask that everybody who wants to speak on it be given the opportunity to speak on it before you try to take a second bite of that apple. It's just the nice town of Weare, New Hampshire, courteous thing to do. So, after the mover of the motion has spoken, other eligible members of the Assembly are provided an opportunity to speak. Proposals to amend a main motion may be offered by eligible residents during debate, but may only be discussed after they are moved and seconded. Any amendment which changes the subject matter of the main motion or makes changes to a contract warrant article or attempts to create a wholly new warrant article will be ruled out of order. If any amendments to motions are adopted, debate will return to the main motion as amended. If any such amendments fail to be adopted, debate will return to the main motion without changes. So in terms of making amendments, we have a form that we've adopted now for the past couple of years, and Maureen has copies of this form. So if you're making an amendment, it has to be in writing. And so I'm going to advise you of that now. So if there's something that you have a burning desire to change, you have the ample time to do your writing while this body is in session. And so also, I'm going to encourage you to make your teachers proud and write as legibly as possible. And so you have an opportunity here to honor those who served and taught you. So, once debate is completed, the moderator will read aloud the motion to be voted on before calling the question and asking for a vote of the residents. The moderator will also indicate the effect of voting for or against each motion. After the vote, the moderator will announce the results of the assembly. So, any questions on any of that? All right, let's begin. Naomi, I'm starting with 2, correct? 3? Okay. Aha.